Entertainment has a funny way of influencing all of us. But isn't it also funny how we can influence entertainment?
Are you sure that the video of the puppy on the rooster is optimizing our prepubescent sense memory consumer sector?
The narrative has shifted quite drastically over the years. Anyone else remember when every new piece of entertainment was about a chosen one concept?
Only the Avatar, master of all four elements, could stop them.
And then how those same series eventually acknowledged that the whole chosen one thing was baloney, and that real power comes from working together?
I say my power should be our power.
There's only so long that people can be sold a lie. We always catch on, and because of that, entertainment has to adapt.
No weapon forged can stop me.
That was then. This is now.
We see this in all sorts of media, but the most interactive of these is video games. As early as video games date back, we've seen the trend of black and white, good versus evil, one person chosen to defeat the evil and protect some form of current structure, typically a monarchy. It makes sense, right? These games can only be played by one person, and the idea of escapism is strongest in video games because it's interactive. However, one fateful day, humans finally stopped and thought, what if everything wasn't so black and white? What if this institution we've been preserving is actually our real oppressor? And what if one person really is powerless to stop such a structured system that's baked into every aspect of our lives? What then? Okay, obviously that took way more than a day for us to realize. Matter of fact, there's a large number of people out there who still live in ignorance of how a handful of corporations control our everyday lives, wages, and well-being. But a larger majority is definitely aware, and we're shaping the narrative in media because of it. Furthermore, those who work in the gaming and entertainment industry are some of the most affected and abused workers in modern society, with crunch hours, botched pay, and even sexual harassment being well-known issues that plague all of these industries. So it makes sense that media is being used more and more to shed light on these horrors. But the more existential threats to humanity are the biggest threats we face today. And it can all be attributed to this overarching systematic flaw. You know the one. Yup, the big C. And what better game to discuss here than a little one that stood ahead of its time to tackle this overarching issue? Final Fantasy VII. This game represents the epitome of how storytelling has changed over the years, not just in video games, but in media in general. It stands the test of time and has introduced so many to the horrors of what our future will look like if continues to eat away at our world and our people. What's crazier? It did so way before most other media even attempted this, and we might even be able to thank this gem for being a large part of showing that speaking the truth can be the popular thing to do. From the very start, Final Fantasy VII makes it very clear that this will not be a story of a chosen one. If anyone in this game was going to be a chosen one, it was going to be Sephiroth. And well, let's just say that doesn't go as planned. Playing primarily as Cloud Strife, you're immediately working with a team to accomplish a common goal. Each member of this team has their own expertise, and without even a single one of them, the whole mission will fail. Why is this? Well, that's because the main antagonist of Final Fantasy VII is a corporation known as Shinra. It's a company with untold amounts of influence and power. Comparable to real-life corporations such as the oil and plastic industry, the meat industry, the energy industry, and the National Rifle Association, which all put profits above the well-being of fellow humans and our planet, Shinra is quite literally sucking the life out of the earth to garner unheard profits far and beyond what they could ever need in life. And of course, this is also at the expense of the people. Where just like in real life, a middle class no longer exists, there's simply two classes in Final Fantasy VII. The 1% who have all the wealth,
a man of my refined taste, running out of butter.
and everyone else who are just the worker bees for the rich.
We're the good guys, damn it.
Used and abused until the day they die. The use of disinformation is a powerful tool for Shinra.
What kind of maniacs would go so far as to bomb a reactor?
They've yet to announce it publicly, but I heard it was Avalanche's doing.
Really? Aren't they the terrorists who tried to kill the president?
Once again, just like our real-life corporations that own everything else, Shinra has the ability to lobby, aka legally bribe politicians, other companies, and even news networks to push a false narrative. We see this almost immediately when Cloud and his team planned on deactivating one of the 8 energy reactors that power Midgar, but Shinra frames them as terrorists by blowing up the reactor themselves and murdering countless civilians in the process just to do so. Why did they do something so awful? Why would they kill the worker bees that keep them operating? Well, it's simply more profitable in the short term for them to keep the public eye on a fake enemy. We see this in real life as well. Let's use Fox News as an example. How many of you have ever seen your parents watching Fox News and complain about drag queens being public enemy number 1? Or how about Hispanic, Black Lives Matter, the anti-fascist movement? You can name any minority group, Fox News has slandered them. Even women fit this bill apparently.
Married women, married men go for Republicans by double digits. But single women and voters under 40 have been captured by Democrats. They're also teaching our children in schools. So you have hardcore Democrat females in school with your kids for 8 hours a day. We've seen the videos. We've showed you what they teach in those classrooms too.
There were no videos. They didn't show anything, by the way. They purposely sprinkle little bits like this to misdirect the audience. This is all done to divert our eyes from the real enemy, the ultra-wealthy. 1% of the human race who hoards all the money in the world, using slave labor practices, deforestation, oceanic destruction, slaughterhouses, lawyers, and news outlets to accomplish their goals and cover up all the horrors they leave behind. Ever notice how outlets constantly try to pit us against each other instead of those who actually own capital? That's the final form of capitalism. The developers of Final Fantasy VII understood this, and they masterfully wove this into their narrative. Now, the institutional flaws are the focus towards the beginning of Final Fantasy VII. That was the devs' way of hooking us in because we resonate with the character struggles thanks to the many parallels to real life. But it's the fallout the characters have to deal with in the aftermath of Shinra's greed that really drives this narrative home. After all, this is what's next for the human race. We've already started seeing the early stages of it, and those who are more privileged don't have to see it at all. And because those more privileged individuals are the ones driving the narrative behind the scenes, many people still don't feel an urgency to become activists in preventing it. And that's what happens in Final Fantasy VII. Only this small group we're working with in the game is standing up to Shinra. But because they're simply too small by comparison to this large corporation, the fallout begins. This fallout can most closely be compared to climate change. We've known about climate change and some of its major causes as far back as 1938, and contrary to popular belief, global warming isn't the only side effect of climate change. Increases to frequency and power of natural disasters, unstable electromagnetic fields, oceanic decay, flooding, and death to vegetation and food chains that support human life are all products of corporate-led climate change. What happens in Final Fantasy VII? The Earth releases what are known as weapons as the final defense of the planet. Funny enough, even though Sephiroth was the straw that broke the camel's back by summoning Meteor to destroy the planet, the weapons view their primary threat to be, you guessed it, humans, namely Shinra. The weapons are nigh unkillable entities that annihilate the threats destroying their planet. In real life, this can be compared to what we call the tipping point. And in our sad reality, this is when the Earth will begin to fall down a slippery slope of overheating and decay, leading to all the catastrophes I mentioned earlier and culminating in the complete annihilation of the human race. This is our planet's real-life defense system. It's how it will allow itself to recover, by wiping us all out via natural disasters. You'll actually be pleased to know that this tipping point is projected to arrive in about 2 decades, around the year 2048 to be more precise, which is when we're supposed to run out of fish in the ocean. It's as Bugenhagen said, that was a scream from the planet. Didn't you hear it? As if to say, I hurt, I suffer. And what's crazy about this line is knowing that a small handful of individuals in the grand scheme of the human race are responsible for that suffering. from the planet and its people. 1% of the human population herd the other 99% with disinformation and oppression for their own greed, and in doing so ruin billions of lives. The story of Final Fantasy VII is a product of people influencing media. It's a rare story that dissented from what was expected, and because of that, it's become a title we can largely thank for helping pave the way to more progressive media. Since Final Fantasy VII, other works have shifted to more honest approaches to storytelling as well, in video games, and television, and movies, and even some small news networks that look to give actual, honest journalism. Nier Automata is another shining example of everyday people influencing the media. No spoilers, but Nier Automata dives into the growing concern of mental health in everyday society. These mental health issues stem from an overarching system of oppression and disinformation that leads the characters down a dark spiral once they start finding out the truth. Even worse, they find out the truth too late, and hidden forces they never could have predicted begin sparking a mental decay even faster. The story has quickly become a timeless classic because of its messaging. It's only been out for 6 years and has already solidified itself as a beacon of modern storytelling. A game like Nier Automata couldn't have risen in popularity without its honest messaging. This is a game that struggled to sell even 1 million copies in its first year because it was lacking brand recognition. Yet recently, has reached upwards of 7 million units sold thanks to word of mouth and the philosophical messages resonating with players. If Nier Automata and Final Fantasy VII are anything to go by, I urge all media to shift to a more open and honest approach to connecting with consumers, and use ethical practices rather than exploitation. It's been proven to work better in the long term. We no longer need to allow short-term profits to take over and own us. We can take power into our own hands if we work together, and I'm so happy that video games are evolving to help send that message. Speaking of working together, I want to thank my patrons on Patreon for helping make this video possible, and if you too would like to help me make more content like this, please do consider becoming a patron as well. Links are right here. Otherwise, feel free to watch any of my other videos. I have a couple of recommendations linked here too.